Hey, good morning, everyone. I want to talk about education this morning just a little bit because there was a thought that struck me yesterday. I'm a volunteer for a youth mentoring program for young entrepreneurs and listened to a presentation where they were talking about some thoughts about graduation. And it's interesting how there's a lot of us when we go as we go through life. You know, you enter elementary school, and the big day is 6th grade graduation when you're done with elementary school and you're moving on to junior high. So it's kind of a period at the end of the sentence. You know, it brings closure to that phase of your life, and then you move on to junior high. Of course, junior high is just the weird years that everybody just kind of tosses out. Like, disregard those. That wasn't really me. And high school, some of us do the same thing with high school, but high school, you go through the 4 years, you got the awkward stage, etc., etc. Graduation, right? You've got all of your friends, and you've got all of your little cliques and the things that everybody does. You survive somehow, and you get to graduation, and for some people, that's the end of the educational journey. And others go on to college. And so there's one more little chapter of our lives where we go to 4 more years of college. But either high school or college, or even grad school, sometimes that marks the end of our education as we know it. Because in our minds, we think, great, I'm done being a student. Now I get to go be a big boy or a big girl and go out and have a job and raise a family and have a career and do things that grown-ups do. Well, there's certainly some truth to that, because it is a different phase of our lives when we are out, producing and working and earning and raising a family versus being a student and learning. There's a different purpose in our lives, a different focus, right? The college years, the high school years, we're in the mode of always learning. We go to class, we show up. Every day there's homework assignments, there's tests, there's things that we study for, there's things that we prepare, essays and quizzes and homework in-class assignments. You get the idea. So we are in learning mode. And then something happens at graduation. Something happens where we cross the stage in our cap and gown. We get all excited. We're all with our friends, and everybody's headed different directions. Whether it's high school or college, whatever the case may be, there's kind of a period at the end of the sentence right there in our lives, and there shouldn't be. It should be a comma. When we graduate, we cease to be students in the traditional sense. We're not going to school anymore. I'm not in school anymore, so technically I'm not a student in the technical sense, in the traditional sense. But where we fall short is when we put an end to our education right there, and we say, I'm done learning, and I am not going to class anymore. I put in my 12, 15, whatever years of studying, and I am done. And then we don't want to pick up another book. We don't want to learn anything else. And it's sad, because when we think that way, we do ourselves a huge disservice, because some of the best things that I have learned in my life have come long after college. So the point that I'd like to make here with all of this is never stop being a student of life, a student of success, a student of achievement, setting goals, formulating your habits, learning and growing. And and it's so easy to continue your own education, and it's completely free. It doesn't have to cost anything. I mean, of course, if you want to, you can take some advanced classes at a master's degree program or a PhD program or something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about self-development. I'm talking about improving yourself and doing it through education. So when you've got 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or you're driving in the car, you're doing this or that, what are you doing? Are you picking up a book and reading and learning more, achieving more? Or do you default to the radio or to a video game or to a movie or whatever? Time is so precious, and we have one of two options when we have some extra time. We can either work on ourselves, or we can do other things that don't provide value to our lives. I'm thinking through this, and I'm seeing that so many of us, we all hide behind this excuse that I didn't have enough time, or my life's busy, when am I ever going to do something like that? Or we all have the same amount of time every day. It's just how we spend our time that makes the difference. And let's say you have a small pocket. Let's talk about your commute for a minute. I'm commuting right now. I'm on my way to work, right? And I use this time for one of two things. I'm either recording a video, so sharing ideas, thoughts, and hopefully some good insights to help you, or I switch over and I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm listening to an audiobook, or I'm listening to a TED Talk. I love TED Talks. Or sometimes I'll find interesting things on YouTube. Just a little video presentation. I was watching a presentation by Darren Hardy the other day. If you've ever listened to Darren Hardy, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you need to. Men like him have a fantastic way of teaching and helping you become better and learn more about success, about yourself, about improving. Because the more you learn about improving yourself, the more valuable you become as a person, as a commodity, if you want to consider yourself that. So it's worthy of our time to not just graduate, throw our cap and gown, or our cap, I guess. Nobody throws their gown in the air. Throw our cap in the air and march off the stage and say, I served my time, hallelujah, I'm done, and let's get on with life. Now we're far better served by saying this is just the beginning. Now I don't have to go to class, at a certain class that I don't want to take. Now I get to take all the classes that I want to take. And some of them, by the way, you can't take in college, are much more valuable. The things that success coaches will teach you, much more valuable than a lot of the courses that they teach in college. Even the ones that are required. Now, I'm not saying there's no value in that. Of course there is. But nobody teaches about habits, about goals. Nobody teaches about, there's some, I guess, but managing your, even budgeting your finances and time management. And, oh my goodness, the list goes on and on. There's so many things that are so important that we should be learning, and it's all available. It's out there. It's on podcasts. It's on YouTube. It's in blogs. It's in articles, and you can put yourself out there and start subscribing and following and listening for free. It's the most phenomenal education that the world has ever known, available to every one of us. And if you don't even have a computer, it doesn't matter. You still have access to it. You can get all this stuff. You can even get the books at the library, but my goodness, there is so much available to us, and so few of us seem to be tapping into it because when we graduated, we were done. So don't you do yourself a disservice by thinking that you're not a student anymore. Be a student. Be an eternal student. Consider yourself a student of life, a student of achievement, success. That stuff never goes away. You might be 100 years old, you're still a student. Don't let that, the opposite way of thinking, don't get caught into the trap of thinking, I'm a student, I'm done, because all you're going to do is limit your own learning opportunities in life. And that's not going to serve you well. I know a lot of successful people still have mentors. A lot of very, very successful people still have coaches. They might be all the way at the top of their industries. They are still learning, reading, absorbing every day. In fact, the more successful a person is, likely the more time they spend reading and learning and educating themselves and having a mentor and having a coach, the more likely they are to have that. It sounds like it should be just the opposite. It sounds like, well, they're the ones that should be mentoring, and they do, but they keep feeding themselves because they have learned the value of that. So wherever you are on the spectrum, if you're still a high school student, learn that before you graduate. You'll be way ahead of your peers, all the ones that stop learning in life. But if you're further on down the journey and you're, in a career, or you're older and you've been thinking that way, hit the reset button and go, you know what? I am a student. I'm a student, and starting today, I'm going to start learning, and set some goals around the education that is available to you, and subscribe to some podcasts. Start turning off the radio and turning on a podcast, and see what that does for you. A radio is so easy to just listen to, because you listen to some, a favorite song or whatever, you switch around, you hear ads or whatever. It's just such a common thing that a lot of times we don't even think about it. But spend 20 minutes listening to the radio and 20 minutes listening to a podcast that teaches you some phenomenal principles, and see how you feel when you're done. I promise you, there are few things more important than your education, because that is something you take with you. There aren't many things you can take with you in life. You can build up a mass of wealth, nice cars, a nice home, all kinds of things around you, friends, all of that, because that's your outside world. Your education is your inside world. Your habits, the way that you think, your knowledge and understanding of the world, and principles and science and math and everything that we learn in school, and your self-education after school. All of that is your inner world. That you get to take with you. Far more valuable than anything in your outer world. So be a student. Be a student today. Do something today. Listen to something else. Read a new book. Stop by the library, or buy a book, or borrow a book, or listen to a podcast, or watch something on YouTube. Just start the habit every day of self-development and self-education. You'll be amazed at what it does for your life.